Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So either you want to be a music video creator, documentary filmmaker, movie maker, or even a skit creator, or even social media content creator, all those genres share one thing in common, and that is telling a story. Like it or not, we are living in an era where people are telling stories. But when you sit on TV, you'll see that there are sequels that people have told again and again, and each person who has told a sequel, or each person who has told an episode from that sequel, you'll see that they are telling the story differently. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the tips that will help you to tell better stories. So if you're a person who creates videos and you have this amazing idea to create a movie, to create a documentary, or even to create a music video, by the end of this video, you will have so many new ideas and different ways how you can tell that story. The first one, once you have an idea, you need to make sure that you have an origin of the story. When I say an origin of the story, most of the people just pick up cameras and they start shooting an idea. But what you need to understand is that the person who is going to watch this documentary, this story, this music video, needs to understand where does this story come from. I'll give you an example. Previously, I shot a music video, and one of the things that was running in my mind when I was listening to the video is that what is the story and what is the origin? When I understood that this is a gospel song, I needed to find a way to tell a story how this person gets to find out this religion or this new faith that she belongs in. And I decided to create a story where she comes from a background of being a drunkard, and then she converts into becoming a religious lady that now gave up that side of life. For you, a person who wants to create a story, or for you as a person who wants to create an amazing story, you need to think about an origin. And also, talking about an origin, all over the world, we have so many cultures, but when people are creating stories, they tend to make characters speak that fluent English. One of the things you need to understand is that when you give people their origin, or if you find a way as the person who is directing this story or a person who is telling this story, if it is the language that they are going to speak, you need to find a way that the languages that they are using in this story or in this movie shows where they come from, and that is the origin. So you need to find a way as you're telling your story that you find a way you can show your viewers the origin of the story and the origin of the character that is in your story. One of the ways that will help you to tell better stories from the many people who are telling stories right now is to find a way how you can humanize your story. One of the most loved stories are the stories that people can relate to. I'll give you an example of Titanic. The reason as to why people loved the movie Titanic is because of the fact that that was a story that they could relate to. That was a story that came from a true event. So for you as a person who is trying to tell stories, you need to find a way to share stories that people can relate to, because at the end of the day, if you fail to humanize your story, you're going to get into a scenario or a situation where it is so hard for you to touch people's emotions. Recently, I watched a movie called Mama Agnes. This is a very short film that has less than 10 cuts, but when you watch that movie, trust me, you will get scared. Those are emotions that you need to think about. So for you, if you want to tell better stories, find a way how you can get people's emotions to come out while they are watching this video, while they are listening to this piece. If you're trying to tell an amazing stories, one of the way you can tell amazing stories is to focus on people's emotions. Find a way to make your viewer cry, find a way to make your viewer smile, and find a way to make your viewer feel the pain that your character is facing or what your character is going through, and this will help you to tell better stories. Having talked about emotions, one of the common thing when it comes on, one of the common trait when we are talking about storytellers, most of the people who create stories, they usually have an amazing beginning, but what they forget is an ending and the middle part. So if you want to tell amazing stories, find a way how you can create an amazing beginning, how you can create a great middle section, and also think about how different your ending is going to be, because like it or not, however amazing your beginning is, as people proceed with watching your video, your film, your documentary, when they get to the end and they can't feel the greatness of your story, they will forget the great work you did at the beginning and they will trash your story. One of the ways you can tell good stories, and that is how you can resolve this beginning part, middle part, and then the end. First and foremost, you need to start with a good beginning, or when you need to start your story when everything is fine, or you can decide to start with a conflict. Then in the middle, take us through a journey where your character is solving this conflict, and then at the end, give us a part where the conflict is being solved. That is a good ending. Or you can even decide to switch it up and you start with a good beginning. In the middle, your character goes through a conflict, and then take us through a journey where your character is solving this conflict. And then at the end, we have a conflict resolved. I believe with this, you can have a good beginning, middle part, and end. Let us continue with the video. One of the ways you can have an amazing beginning, middle part, and also ending is by giving your character a purpose. One thing you need to understand that nowadays it is so hard for you to get famous actors because those are expensive, but also they are hard to get. You have to go through the manager, you have to go through a team of people. But one of the ways you can create your own characters is by giving your characters a purpose. If you're writing a script, if you're creating a storyboard, one of the things that you need to think about is to give your character a purpose. I'll give you an example. For people who watch the movie The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, if you look at that movie, you'll see that this young boy grew up in a poor family, but one of the things that his father wished him to have was education. That is the purpose of the father. The father wants his kid to go to school, but he doesn't have money, so he has to grow crops that he can sell, and then he gets the money that will pay school fees. Then our main character, William Kamkwamba, is having a purpose where when the village gets into a drought season, he needs to find a way where he can create a solution to the drought, and he ends up finding out in one of the books he was reading from the library that when you have a windmill, you can get water. It can pump water from the ground to the garden. So he goes through a struggle or a journey where he is trying to create this windmill, trying to get spare parts, but these are all things that he's trying out for the first time because he just read them from the book. So that is his purpose, to solve the problem of drought, but also to make sure that his father gets the water that can help his plants and crops to grow. So that is purpose. So for you, if you want to create an amazing story, find a way how you can give your character a purpose. This is more of interviews and documentaries. When you sit down and watch interviews and documentaries, or even when you sit down and watch TV, one of the common mistakes you'll see that people love to take interviews where people are just talking and there is no proof of video clips that support what they are talking about. So one of the things that will help you to tell better stories, that is to show and not to tell. When I say show and not to tell, it is important that while you're speaking about all these things, while you're talking about how agriculture helps farmers to get money, show a farmer getting these crops, taking them to the person who is going to buy them, and then show that person giving the farmer money. That is one way you can show the viewer, because like it or not, there are so many people who are putting out videos and stories with just people who are talking, all what we call talking heads, without b-roll that supports what the person in front of the camera is saying. So one of the things that you need to put into your workflow as you're telling stories is to always have a notebook and listen while people are being interviewed, or while you're conducting these interviews. You write down the pieces of b-roll that you'll need, and then after that interview, find a way to get that b-roll, even if it takes you to ask the person who was in front of the camera to act for this b-roll so that you can use that to support what this person is saying. Please do that. So one of the ways you can tell better stories is always to show what people are saying in interviews. One of the mistakes that so many storytellers make is showing us characters that have no purpose and challenge. One of the things that you need to understand, it is important that your character has these challenges and has a purpose. At the end of the day, when a character has a challenge, then that gives them a purpose in your story. So you need to have a challenge for your characters, and as we are watching this story, or as you're building up this story, you should take us through the journey while your character is trying to solve this challenge. You need to find a way to give your characters a challenge that they solve as the story is building up. One of the examples that I can share with you is the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. You'll see that in this movie, Will Smith loses his wife, but also he has this child that he has to take care of. As the movie goes on, we see that he's on a journey of trying to get out of the challenge of poverty. This will keep the viewers watching till the end. So if you want to tell amazing stories, you need to give your characters a challenge, and as the story goes on, all continues, you make your viewers walk a journey with your character as your character is trying to solve this challenge or this problem. This will make your stories 10 times better than the usual stories we are watching. If you want to tell better stories, you need to always also find time and focus on other supporting characters and give them their purpose, or even you also tell their stories. Most of the times you see that we watch movies and we are only following this one individual, and along the way we just meet people and we forget them. But if you need to tell better stories, you also need to find a way how you make your viewer also understand other characters away from your main characters. And one of the ways you can do that is to find a way how you can give them purpose. So away from the main character, I'll give you an example. If you want to create a movie about betting, and then the main character is going to bet his or her money, and then this person is winning, you need to let other people be the reason as to why this person has to lose. That means that in the story, these people have a reason, and this makes it hard for the viewer to forget these other characters. I'll give you an example. The movie Squid Games. When you watch this series, you'll see that despite of the fact that we have the main character who is the old man who is less lucky to win the game, you'll see that we have other characters that are making it so hard for him to win. And this makes the rest of the characters still useful to this story, and these other characters make this story stand out. Like it or not, this is one of the movies that came out from directors that people didn't know about, all directors that were not as famous as the directors that we are used to, and the movie worked out globally. So one of the things you need to understand if you want to tell better stories is to also focus on other characters that are supporting your main character, and this will make your story a unique one, but also an amazing one. One of the things you need to understand that every day there is a person, or there are a great number of people who are writing stories. So one of the things you need to ask yourself before you start writing that story, before you start creating that documentary, before you start shooting that movie is, how unique is my story? And once you get that question and you find its answer, you will get into a position where you will start thinking differently, away from the many people who are creating stories. So you need to always ask yourself, how unique is my story? And this will put you in a position where you will start to think differently, or you'll start to think in a way that makes you stand out from the many people who are creating video stories. The last tip that I'm going to share with you, and if you are to forget everything that I've talked about in this video, don't forget this: you need to always practice writing stories, practice shooting stories, practice creating different stories, and with time you'll start to grow into a better storyteller. And who knows, one day you'll look at the videos you're creating now and you will wonder what you are thinking about. Otherwise, I would like to thank you guys for supporting this channel. We have just hit 500 subscribers. This is a milestone that I didn't see happening in this time of the year, but you have made it happen. So I would like to thank you. And if you are a person who has not yet subscribed, pause, subscribe, and also don't forget to like this video if it has been useful. And if you have any tip that I've not shared in this video, please feel free to let us know in the comment section on how we can tell better stories. My name is Pastor Jagenda. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.